This guy, Alejandro Mayorkas, who is the head of Homeland Security, our national security, our borders, under President Joe Otto Penn Biden. He's the guy who allowed this to happen. That's just the last 2 years of the President Biden administration. But that's only a tiny fraction of the invasion that actually occurred of America. This is the totality. Well, what we know about, of course. This y-axis here is in tens of thousands. 250,000, sorry. It's in 25,000, 30,000, 35,000, 40,000. This y-axis is in hundreds of thousands. 100,000, 150,000, 200,000, 250,000. And it's the area under the curve that counts, folks. Now, it used to just be seasonal, but look what happened in the 4 years, 2020 to 2024 of the Biden administration. A tsunami of illegal criminal migrants being allowed to come over the border. When did it collapse? The moment Trump got elected. Our border was secured like that. When this guy was in charge, the border was wide open, and we were subject to an invasion. No matter how many times this guy appeared in front of Congress under oath and said, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Our border is fine. It's fine. But we have good reason to believe that he intentionally allowed 20 million illegal criminal migrants into the country. And I would suggest the actual number is a multiple of that, all of whom go to House seat apportionment for Democrat politicians. That's why they were brought in, so the Democrats could maintain power. Now, we kind of knew what was going on at the time, and the Republicans had a majority in the House. They didn't have a majority in the Senate. It was basically a tie, with Kamala Harris being the tiebreaker. I think they might have had a one-vote majority, but I think it was a tie, right? With Kamala being the tie-breaking vote in the Senate. So the House did impeach this guy back in, what was that, February of 2024, so more than a year ago. And of course, they were all assuming that, well, don't worry about it. Kamala will get, well, at the time, Biden will get reelected, because they were lying to us about his dementia and his cancer. As always, folks, if progressive fascists didn't have lies to tell, they'd have nothing to say at all. So they just thought, we just got to wait it out. He was impeached by the House. He was put on trial by the U.S. Senate a couple of months later. And then the Democrat majority in the Senate, by one vote, 51 to 49 on party lines, decided not to convict this guy. The guy responsible, decided not to convict him. That was in April, almost exactly a year ago, 13 months ago now, decided not to convict him and remove him from office. The guy responsible for this. The Democrats thought this was a good idea. And for their political purposes, I mean, it's very bad for America, obviously. It's a mass replacement of American citizens with the third world. But for purposes of Democrat power, political power, that was a good plan. That was a good policy as far as they were concerned. And there's good reason to believe that this guy, Alejandro Mayorkas, intentionally opened the border to allow that influx to come in. Here's just the headline. Homeland Security boss Alejandro Mayorkas intentionally opened the southern border, ex-Biden Border Patrol chief says. The guy who's currently in the place that Tom Homan is in today. What a difference a few months makes. Remember, Trump's only been in office for a little over 100 days so far, folks. And this collapse, this far right of this curve, from 200,000 border crossings in one day to 8,000, That's the change we've seen.
Did you know that in all 50 states, self-defense law, not gun law, but self-defense law, uses a simple 5-element test to see if your use of defensive force was legally justified? And that same test applies no matter what state you're in or what tool you use to defend yourself. If you're missing even one of those required elements, however, you've made yourself an easy conviction for an aggressive prosecutor. My name is Attorney Andrew Branca, and I've worked more than 30 years as a self-defense attorney. Every state has seemingly endless, complex pages of laws regarding self-defense, so complex that many top criminal defense attorneys rely on my expert analysis to help win self-defense cases for their clients. If the legal code is that complex for lawyers, how can a citizen gun owner expect to know or even follow the law, especially when a life or death situation has triggered a massive, adrenaline-fueled mandate to make that fight or flight decision right now? It seems daunting. Yet I created a simple but powerful framework that has allowed me to serve the legal community and countless American gun owners to simplify this legal complexity into just 5 elements of self-defense law. And you can learn my 5-element legal algorithm I use to consult on and win with the top criminal defense attorneys all over the country to protect law-abiding gun-owning citizens from making innocent legal missteps that land them in prison. Now, with a simple read or listen, you can install my 5-point legal framework so it acts as a sort of muscle memory defense to protect you from losing your rights when you choose to defend innocent human life. Click below to get the latest edition of my book, The Law of Self-Defense Principles, for free. I ask only that you help cover the shipping and handling cost to get the book to you.
Now, in fairness, it's hard to know how real this news is. I'm very skeptical anytime there's information from an unnamed source, and this is an unnamed source. Attorney General Pam Bondi is reportedly preparing to charge Alejandro Mayorkas with treason. Says who? Says who? It could all be nothing but political theater. And if you ask Grok about it, that's what Grok will tell you. Grok will say that there's no credible evidence that Pam Bondi is charging Alejandro Mayorkas with treason. The claim is circulating on social media, but there's no official confirmation from DOJ or major news outlets. And they talk about his impeachment and so forth. Of course, Grok is not a truth-telling machine. Grok just kind of scrapes the various propaganda off the internet and packages it up into little paragraphs like this. I do have some hope that maybe something is going to happen with all this, because we are seeing the Department of Justice begin to go after some of these people. You may remember the recent kerfuffle. Let me see if I can pull up that video. On X. Of the congressman invading the Delaney Detention Center for illegal immigrants. Let's see, here we have her. This woman, the woman in red. Let me pull this up. She brought a group of violent protesters to the Delaney Detention Center for immigrants, full of very violent, criminal, illegal migrants, by the way. Murderers, grapers, drug traffickers, human traffickers, the worst of the worst. And they were there, of course, to create a media circus, which is what they did. But even beyond that, and she's the woman in red, Congressman MacGyver, a U.S. congressman. She starts just throwing elbows at these federal immigration law enforcement officers. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger so we can all watch this in its full glory. I covered this in more detail a short while ago. Let's take a look at the conduct of this U.S. Congresswoman. You see those elbows flying? You see those elbows flying. Well, she's getting charged by the feds. Here we have this document. Let's take a look. See if I can make it a little bigger for everybody. This is from the United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey, Alina Habba, who seems pretty aggressive for a U.S. District Attorney. She writes, I take my obligation as a U.S. attorney seriously. I understand the responsibility that comes with my position, and I will work diligently to uphold the law and deliver justice to the people of New York. After extensive consideration, we have agreed to dismiss Mayor Baraka's misdemeanor charge of trespass for the sake of moving forward. So this is another New Jersey politician, the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. He had entered the gated border of this facility. So a trespass, actually, believe it or not, the federal government doesn't have a trespass statute. They do have a statute that allows the feds to apply local state laws. So they had originally charged this guy with trespassing under New Jersey law. It's a petty misdemeanor. It's basically like a parking ticket. So they decided to dismiss that charge. Says nice things about the mayor. But the dismissal against the mayor is not the end of the matter. Congressional oversight is an important constitutional function and one that I fully support. And this Congresswoman MacIver said, I was there to do congressional oversight. And by the way, she has the right as a U.S. Congresswoman to engage in congressional oversight, to go to the facility, to request entrance under reasonable circumstances, and to be shown around. She's entitled to do that by statute. What she's not entitled to do is do that while committing acts of violence upon federal law enforcement officers. Congressional oversight, U.S. District Attorney Alina Habba writes, is not the issue in this case. Representative LaMonica Two-Ton MacIver assaulted, impeded, and interfered with law enforcement in violation of Title 18 U.S.C. 11A1. That conduct cannot be overlooked by the chief federal law enforcement in the state of New Jersey, and it's my constitutional obligation to ensure that our federal law enforcement is protected when executing their duties and not just be beat up by New Jersey fatties. I've persistently made efforts to address those issues without bringing criminal charges and have given Representative MacIver every opportunity to come to a resolution, but she has unfortunately declined. No one is above the law, politicians and otherwise. It is the job of this office to uphold justice impartially, regardless of who you are. Now we will let the justice system work. So what is 18 U.S.C. 11A1? Well, it's this. And it reads, whoever forcibly assaults, resists, opposes, impedes, intimidates, or interferes with any person designated in this section, and that includes federal law enforcement officers, while engaged or an account of the performance of their official duties, which is what these law enforcements were doing, shall, where the acts in this section constitute only simple assault, be fined or imprisoned for not more than a year, or where such acts involve physical contact with the victim, which clearly happened here, these elbows being delivered to these federal law enforcement agents, be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 8 years. So Representative MacIver is now looking at 8 years in federal prison. And 8 years federal time is real time, folks. There's very limited time off for good behavior in federal courts. It's 8 long years. So given that this is happening, maybe we can have some hope, that this prosecution of Congresswoman MacIver is happening, and she's looking at an 8-year sentence. Maybe we can have some hope that this is happening. Now, treason is punishable by execution or by 20 years in prison or potentially as little as 5 years in prison. So just because he's tried for treason, if he is, doesn't mean he's going in front of a firing squad, although I'm not sure why not. I'm not sure why not. If Congresswoman MacGyver is looking at 8 years for driving elbows into armed federal law enforcement, what should be the punishment for allowing 20 million third world migrants to invade our nation? Certainly some multiple of 8 years. Tenfold more? It's a violation not just of the safety of the officers, as in MacGyver's case. It's a violation of our national sovereignty, of our America as a society. If China had poured 20 million people into America over our borders unlawfully, would we not consider that an act of war? I certainly would. I certainly would. So just to kind of round things out, here's the federal treason statute. Whoever owing allegiance to the U.S. levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere is guilty of treason and shall suffer death or shall be imprisoned not less than 5 years and fined under this title, but not less than $10,000, and be incapable of holding any office under the U.S. And by the way, the consequences for this invasion are real. When we allow these people to invade our nation and remain in our community, the consequence is a great deal of harm to America, a great deal of violence. Only recently, like in the last month, a major effort has been made in Denver to capture these illegal criminal migrants in my local capital city, Denver, Colorado. And what's the fruit of these efforts been? Denver sees a 58% drop, almost a 2/3 drop in homicides amid stricter immigration policies. That means without this enforcement, the world that Mayorkas wants, without this enforcement, we have effectively more than double the number of homicides we otherwise would have. That's the America the Democrats want to deliver to us. Absolutely horrific.
Thanks for watching this highlight segment of our full-length Law of Self-Defense live stream. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to give us a like and subscribe for more expert analysis on politics, law, and how to be hard to convict. And to watch the full-length episode of this show, just click right here. Stay safe.